The red dwarf star painted the sky in perpetual twilight, casting long shadows across the ruins of Haven Colony. Nova Blackwood crouched behind a fallen pillar, her breath fogging the inside of her scavenging mask as she watched a Kraxan patrol ship glide silently overhead. Its dark hull absorbed what little light reached this side of Proxima b, making it look like a hole in the dusty sky. At 17, Nova had spent more years surviving the ruins than she had living in the colony's golden age. The Kraxan invasion had taken everything from her when she was 8, her parents, her home, and any chance at a normal life. Now she was just another scavenger, searching the wreckage for anything that might keep her alive another day. The patrol ship passed, and Nova slipped from her hiding spot, moving with the practiced grace of someone who had learned to be invisible. Her worn boots made no sound on the crystalline ground as she approached the newly uncovered sector of the ruins. A recent tremor had split open part of the underground complex, revealing chambers that had been sealed for centuries before humans had even reached this planet. Nova's scavenging scanner chirped softly, indicating trace energy signatures deeper in the complex. She checked her oxygen meter, 30 minutes of filtered air remaining. More than enough time to explore and get back to her hideout before the next patrol cycle. The passage down was tight, forcing her to squeeze between fallen support beams and chunks of what looked like ancient machinery. The architecture here was different from both the human colony and the few Kraxan structures she'd seen. Everything was curved, organic, flowing like frozen liquid metal. 20 meters down, the passage opened into a vast chamber that made Nova's breath catch. The ceiling soared overhead, covered in swirling patterns that seemed to capture and amplify the dim light from her headlamp. But it was what stood at the center of the room that made her heart skip a beat. A shield floated in a column of faint blue light, its surface rippling like liquid mercury. It wasn't human technology, the design was too elegant, too advanced. It wasn't Kraxan either, their technology was all sharp angles and brutal efficiency. This was something else entirely. Nova's scanner went wild, then died with a soft whine. She shook it, but the screen remained dark. The shield pulsed once, as if in response to her presence, and she felt something brush against her mind, a sensation like someone running their fingers across the strings of a guitar. "Don't even think about it," she whispered to herself. Every scavenger knew the rules, if something looked too good to be true, it probably was. But even as she thought this, her feet were carrying her forward, drawn by an urge she couldn't explain. The shield's surface rippled faster as she approached, and the sensation in her mind grew stronger. It wasn't invasive or uncomfortable, if anything, it felt familiar, like remembering a song from childhood. Nova reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they neared the liquid metal surface. The moment she touched the shield, the world exploded into light. Nova felt herself falling into an ocean of memories that weren't her own, vast cities that stretched across the stars, beings of pure energy walking among mortals, a war that threatened to tear reality itself apart. Through it all, she felt an overwhelming sense of loss, of a civilization facing its end and making one final, desperate gambit for survival. When her vision cleared, Nova found herself on her knees, the shield clutched to her chest. It had solidified into a physical form, its surface now covered in intricate patterns that glowed with a soft inner light. The sensation in her mind had settled into a constant, comforting hum, like a lullaby played just at the edge of hearing. A deep boom echoed through the chamber, followed by the distinctive whine of Kraxan energy weapons. Nova's head snapped up, they must have detected the energy surge. She had minutes, maybe seconds, before they reached her. The shield hummed louder, and Nova felt knowledge pour into her mind, not just what the shield was, but how to use it. It had chosen her, just as its creators had planned thousands of years ago. She wasn't just a scavenger anymore. She was an heir to something far greater. Nova stood, adjusting her grip on the shield as heavy footsteps approached the chamber entrance. Its surface rippled once more, then settled into a crystalline hardness that she somehow knew would stop any weapon the Kraxan could bring to bear. As the first hunter appeared in the doorway, Nova felt a smile spread across her face. For the first time since the invasion, she didn't feel afraid. The shield's song filled her mind with images of victory, of hope, of a future where humanity would rise from the ashes stronger than ever. The hunter raised its weapon, but Nova was already moving, the shield guiding her actions with the wisdom of 1,000 generations. The game of survival was over. Now it was time to fight back. The shield moved before Nova's conscious mind could react, deflecting the Kraxan hunter's energy blast in a shower of crystalline sparks. The redirected beam struck the chamber wall, leaving a scorched crater in the ancient metal. The hunter's faceted eyes widened in what might have been surprise. It was hard to read expressions on their insectoid faces. Nova didn't give it time to fire again. The shield pulsed, and she felt its power flow through her like liquid starlight. She thrust forward, and a wave of force knocked the hunter off its feet, sending it crashing into two more that were just entering the chamber. Target is armed. The hunter's translator crackled. Requesting heavy weapons authorization. Nova knew she couldn't stay and fight, not yet. The shield was feeding her information faster than she could process it, but one thing was clear, she needed time to understand its power. She sprinted forward, vaulting over the fallen hunters with an agility she didn't know she possessed. The shield's influence extended beyond mere protection, enhancing her physical capabilities in ways that made her feel like she was flying. The journey back to the surface was a blur of motion and instinct. Every time a hunter appeared, the shield guided her movements, deflecting attacks and creating openings for escape. By the time she emerged into the perpetual twilight of Proxima B, alarms were blaring throughout the ruins. Nova ran until her lungs burned, putting as much distance between herself and the excavation site as possible. She finally stopped in an abandoned hydroponic facility, one of her many backup hiding spots throughout the ruins. As she caught her breath, she studied the shield more closely. Its surface had settled into a pattern of interlocking geometrical shapes that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. The hum in her mind had organized itself into something more structured, not quite words, but concepts she could almost grasp. "What are you?" she whispered, tracing one of the patterns with her finger. The shield's response came in a flood of images, a civilization that had transcended physical form, beings of pure energy and thought who had seeded the galaxy with their technology before disappearing into the spaces between stars. They called themselves the Luminari, and this shield was more than a weapon, it was a key. A warning ping from her perimeter sensors interrupted her communion with the shield. Nova checked the readout and felt her heart sink. A group of human signatures was approaching, other scavengers, probably drawn by the commotion. In some ways, they were more dangerous than the Kraxan. At least the aliens were predictable in their cruelty. "Hold it right there, girl." The voice came from behind her, accompanied by the distinctive click of a salvaged pulse rifle being charged. Nova turned slowly, the shield humming with reassurance. 5 scavengers had somehow managed to flank her while she was distracted. Their leader, a scarred woman with cybernetic eyes, kept her rifle trained on Nova's chest. "That's some fancy tech you've got there. Want to hand it over before things get messy?" Nova felt the shield's indignation at being called tech. It was so much more than that. "It wouldn't work for you," she said, surprised by the calm in her voice. "It's chosen me." The scavenger leader laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the facility's walls. "Chosen? Girl, nothing chooses anything anymore. There's only what you can take and hold on to. Last chance, hand it over." The shield showed Nova exactly what would happen next. She saw the leader's finger tightening on the trigger, saw the other scavengers moving to surround her. She also saw how to stop them without killing them. The shield was adamant about that. It wanted to protect, not destroy. When the leader fired, Nova was already moving. The shield expanded its protective field, turning the pulse rifle's beam into harmless light. Before the scavengers could react, she had disarmed 2 of them with precise strikes, the shield enhancing her speed and strength just enough to make it look effortless. The remaining scavengers backed away, their bravado replaced by fear. The leader kept firing, each shot dissipating harmlessly against the shield's energy field. "What are you?" she demanded. Nova felt the shield's power coursing through her, its song filling her with purpose. "I'm what comes next," she said, and the shield pulsed with approval. "I'm the hope you've forgotten how to feel. And I'm offering you a choice: help me fight back against the Kraxen, or stay out of my way." The leader lowered her rifle slowly, cybernetic eyes whirring as they analyzed Nova and the shield. "You're serious, aren't you? You really think you can fight them?" "I know I can. But I'll need help." Nova held out her hand, and the shield's surface rippled with inviting light. "There's more out there, more artifacts, more power. The Luminari left them for us to find. We just have to be worthy of them." The scavenger leader looked at Nova's outstretched hand, then at her companions. One by one, they nodded. "You're either crazy or touched by destiny," the leader said finally. "But after 10 years of running and hiding, crazy sounds pretty good." As Nova began explaining what she'd learned about the shield and the Luminari, she felt a new sensation from the artifact: satisfaction, as if this was just the first step in a much larger plan. The shield had chosen her, yes, but perhaps more importantly, she had chosen to share its power rather than hoard it. What she didn't know, what the shield hadn't yet revealed, was that this decision would set in motion events that would reshape not just their world, but the entire galaxy. The price of power wasn't in claiming it, but in how you chose to use it. The shield hummed with ancient knowledge, and Nova understood that her journey was just beginning. The Kraxen would be hunting her now, but she was no longer afraid. She had found something worth fighting for, not just survival, but a future where humanity could rise from the ashes and reclaim its place among the stars. The underground bunker that had once been a hydroponic storage facility now served as Nova's base of operations. 3 weeks had passed since she'd found the shield, and in that time, her small group of allies had grown to 23 survivors. The scavenger leader, who called herself Raven, had proven invaluable in recruiting others to their cause. Nova stood before a holographic map of the colony ruins, the shield humming softly at her side. Its surface rippled with anticipation as she studied the patterns of Kraxen patrols. The aliens had tripled their presence since her discovery, but they weren't just hunting her anymore, they were searching for something. "You need to see this," Raven said, entering the command center with a data tablet. Her cybernetic eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "We intercepted a Kraxen transmission. They found another artifact." The shield's hum intensified, and Nova felt its urgent need to respond. "Where?" "The old terraforming station, Northern Quadrant." "But that's not the interesting part." Raven handed over the tablet. "They can't retrieve it. Something's protecting it, just like your shield protected you." Nova studied the transmission data, the shield feeding her insights as she read. "It's waiting," she realized. "Just like the shield waited for me. It needs the right person." "And how exactly do we find the right person?" Raven asked, but Nova was already moving toward the exit. "We don't," she said, the shield's knowledge flowing through her. "They'll find us." As if in response to her words, the bunker's perimeter alarms began to wail. Nova rushed to the security monitors, the shield raising its energy field instinctively. But what she saw wasn't an attack, it was a lone figure stumbling toward their hidden entrance, pursued by Kraxen hunters. "Get them inside," Nova ordered, and her team moved with practiced efficiency. The shield hummed with recognition as the stranger was brought in, a young man barely older than Nova, carrying what appeared to be a metallic staff that pulsed with the same inner light as her shield. "I heard you in my dreams," the man gasped as soon as he saw Nova. "The staff, it showed me where to find you." Nova felt the shield's excitement merge with her own. "I'm Nova. And you are?" "Finn," he replied, clutching the staff like a lifeline. "I was a maintenance worker before the invasion. Found this thing buried in the station's core 3 days ago. It spoke to me. The shield and staff resonated with each other, creating a harmony that filled the room with invisible energy. Through their connection, Nova understood more of the Luminaries' plan. They didn't just leave us weapons, she said. They left us a symphony. Over the next few days, more came. A mechanic named Zara arrived with a set of crystalline orbs that could manipulate gravity. Then came twins, Kai and Lei, bearing a crown that could interface with any technology. Each artifact was different, but they all sang the same song, a song of rebellion, of restoration, of humanity's potential. But with each new arrival came increased cracks in attention. Their patrols grew more aggressive, their weapons more destructive. They knew what was happening, and they were terrified. Nova called a meeting of all artifact bearers in the command center. The shield showed her visions of what they could become, not just rebels, but inheritors of the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever known. The Luminari didn't choose us randomly, she explained, watching the artifacts resonate with each other. They saw something in humanity that they recognized in themselves, the capacity to evolve, to transcend our limitations. But they also saw our capacity for destruction. So what are we supposed to do? Finn asked, his staff humming in harmony with Nova's shield. We learn. We grow. And then we take back what's ours. Nova placed her hand on the shield, and its surface erupted with light that connected to each artifact in the room. The Kraxen think they conquered us, but they don't understand what they're really fighting. We're not just survivors anymore, we're the next step in human evolution. Through her connection to the shield, Nova felt the others' artifacts responding, sharing knowledge and power. The Luminari had created a network of consciousness, waiting for the right moment and the right people to activate it. But as their power grew, so did the price of wielding it. The artifacts demanded focus, discipline, and most importantly, unity. Any discord among them weakened the network, and the Kraxen were watching for any sign of vulnerability. They're planning something big, Raven reported one evening, her cybernetic eyes scrolling through intercepted communications. Multiple capital ships entering the system. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it soon. Nova stood at the center of their base, surrounded by her fellow artifact bearers. The shield showed her glimpses of possible futures, victories and defeats, triumphs and sacrifices. But one thing was certain, they couldn't wait any longer. The Luminari left us more than just artifacts, she announced, feeling the shield's power pulse through her. They left us a map, to their throne world, to the source of their power. If we can reach it before the Kraxen. She didn't need to finish the thought. Every artifact in the room resonated with the truth of her words. The real war was about to begin, and humanity's future hung in the balance. The shield's song reached a crescendo in Nova's mind, showing her the path forward. They would need every bearer, every artifact, working in perfect harmony. The Luminari had placed their faith in humanity's potential, now it was time to prove they'd chosen wisely. The Kraxen capital ships appeared as massive shadows against Proxima B's twilight sky, their hulls bristling with weapons. Nova watched from the ruins of an observation tower, the shield humming with contained energy. Around her, the other artifact bearers prepared for what would be their most daring mission yet. Last transmission decoded, Raven announced, her cybernetic eyes flickering. They're not just bringing in ships, they're bringing someone called the Archon. Some kind of religious leader. The shield pulsed at the mention of the title, flooding Nova's mind with ancient memories. The Archon is a Luminari artifact bearer, she realized, the shield's knowledge crystallizing into understanding. The Kraxen didn't just invade our worlds, they've been using Luminari technology all along. Finn's staff crackled with energy. But how? You said the artifacts choose their bearers. They corrupted them, Nova said, feeling the shield's sadness. Forced bonds that should have formed naturally. That's why they're so afraid of us, we're what the artifacts were waiting for. The revelation spread through their group, each artifact resonating with the truth of it. The Kraxen hadn't just conquered human space, they'd stolen power that was meant for humanity, twisted it to their own purposes. But betrayal came in many forms. As they prepared for their assault on the Kraxen fleet, Nova noticed Kai acting strangely. The crown he bore had been growing dimmer, its song in the artifact network becoming discordant. She found him in the communications room late that night, transmitting coordinates to the enemy. The shield reacted before she could speak, its protective field expanding just as Kai's crown released a burst of deadly energy. "They promised to spare the colony," Kai said, his voice breaking. "Said they'd restore everything, bring back the old days. All they wanted was you and the shield." "The old days are gone," Nova replied, feeling the shield's power flow through her. "We have to move forward, not back. The artifacts showed us that." The fight was brief but devastating. Kai's crown gave him tremendous power, but it was corrupted by his fear and doubt. Nova's shield, strengthened by her conviction and the trust of her allies, proved stronger. When it was over, the crown lay silent, its bearer unconscious but alive. Lei, Kai's twin, stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "I felt him slipping away," she whispered. "The crown's song changed him." "The artifacts amplify what's inside us," Nova said, understanding flowing from the shield. "Hope or fear, courage or doubt, they make us more of what we already are." The betrayal forced them to accelerate their plans. The Archon would be expecting them now, and the Kraxen fleet was positioning itself to bombard the surface. They had one chance to reach the coordinates the shield had revealed, the location of a luminary transport gate that could take them to the throne world. Their assault began at dawn. Zara's gravity orbs created chaos in the Kraxen ranks, while Lei used her recovered brother's crown to disable their communications. Finn's staff opened paths through their defenses, and Nova's shield led the charge, its power greater than ever as it resonated with the other artifacts. But the Archon was waiting. It stood before the ancient gate, a twisted figure wrapped in corrupted luminary technology. The artifacts it wielded screamed in pain, their songs distorted into weapons. "Children playing with powers they don't understand," the Archon's translator crackled. "The Luminari abandoned this galaxy. We claimed what they left behind." "They didn't abandon anything," Nova countered, feeling the shield's righteous anger. "They seeded the galaxy with hope, waiting for those who could use their gifts without corrupting them. The battle that followed would be spoken of for generations." The Archon wielded multiple corrupted artifacts with terrible skill, but its power was built on domination and fear. Nova and her allies fought as one, their artifacts singing in harmony, each supporting the others. When the shield finally struck the decisive blow, shattering the Archon's defenses, the corrupted artifacts fell silent. Then, one by one, they began to sing again, their true notes joining the harmony of Nova's network. The gate activated, its ancient machinery humming to life. Beyond its threshold, Nova could see a world of crystalline spires and impossible architecture, the Luminari throne world, preserved in a pocket of spacetime, waiting for its true inheritors. But victory had come at a cost. Many of their allies lay wounded, and the Kraxen fleet still hung overhead, preparing to reduce the surface to ash rather than let them succeed. They had won the battle, but the war's final phase was about to begin. The shield showed Nova what needed to be done. The gate would only remain open for a short time, and not everyone would be able to make the journey. Someone would have to stay behind, using the artifacts to protect those who went through. As she looked at her wounded friends, at the ruins of her home world, Nova understood the true price of power. It wasn't just about wielding it, it was about knowing when to sacrifice it for something greater than yourself. The shield hummed in agreement, its song both sad and proud. The final choice would define not just her destiny, but humanity's future among the stars. The Luminari throne world stretched before them like a dream made real, crystal spires that sang in harmony with their artifacts, streets paved with light, and technology that bordered on magic. But Nova had no time to marvel at its wonders. Behind them, the gate's energy flickered unstably, and through it, she could still see the Kraxan fleet preparing to bombard their home. "Go," Raven said, her cybernetic eyes glowing with determination. "I'll stay behind with the wounded. The artifacts we captured from the Archon should give us enough power to shield against their first assault." Nova wanted to argue, but the shield hummed with acceptance. This was always how it had to be, not everyone could make the final journey. She hugged Raven fiercely, then turned to those who could still fight. "The shield is showing me where we need to go," she said, pointing to a vast crystalline structure that dominated the horizon. "The Luminari throne chamber. Everything we need to know is there." They moved through the ancient city, their artifacts resonating with the very ground beneath their feet. Finn's staff cleared paths through security systems that had slumbered for millennia. Lei's crown interfaced with dormant technologies, awakening them to serve their new masters. Zara's gravity orbs kept watch above, ready to defend against any pursuit. But it wasn't the Kraxan who posed the greatest threat now. As they approached the throne chamber, Nova felt a presence growing in her mind, vast, ancient, and impossibly powerful. The chamber doors opened at their approach, revealing a space that defied physics. The walls seemed to extend into infinity, filled with stars and galaxies that moved in perfect synchronization. At the center, a simple crystal throne pulsed with pure luminary energy. "Welcome, children." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking directly into their minds. "You have proven yourselves worthy of our legacy." The shield vibrated with recognition, and Nova understood, this was the combined consciousness of the Luminari, preserved in the throne itself. Their final gift to the universe, waiting for those who could wield it wisely. "You offer us your power," Nova said, feeling the shield guide her words. "But what's the price?" "Understanding," the voice replied. "The power to reshape reality must be tempered by the wisdom to know when not to use it." The Kraxan sought dominion. "You seek harmony. That is why you were chosen." Images flooded their minds, the Luminari at the height of their civilization, wielding powers that could create or destroy worlds. Their decision to transcend physical form, leaving behind artifacts to guide the next worthy species. The long wait for those who could understand that power was not an end in itself, but a means to achieve something greater. "The throne is yours," the voice said. "But remember, to rule is to serve. What is your choice?" Nova looked at her companions, seeing the same understanding in their eyes. They had not come this far to become conquerors. The shield pulsed with approval as she stepped toward the throne. "We choose to protect," she said. "To guide, not to rule. To help humanity grow into what it could be, not force it to be what we think it should be." The throne flared with blinding light, and Nova felt power beyond imagination flow through her and the shield. She saw the Kraxan fleet above their home, fingers poised to trigger their weapons. With a thought, she could destroy them all. Instead, she reached out with the Luminari power, touching the minds of every Kraxan in the fleet. She showed them truth, the corruption of their leaders, the pain of the artifacts they had enslaved, the potential for a different way of life. The bombardment never came. One by one, the Kraxan ships stood down. On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, corrupted artifacts began to sing true notes again, breaking the bonds of their enslavement. "This is just the beginning," Nova said, standing before the throne but not sitting upon it. The shield hummed with contentment, this was exactly what its creators had hoped for. "We have power enough to destroy our enemies, but that's not what the Luminari built this for. They wanted us to build bridges, not walls." In the years that followed, Nova and her companions became known as the Guardians, protectors of both humanity and the Luminari legacy. The throne world became a place of learning, where those who showed the potential to bond with artifacts could come to understand their power and responsibility. The shield remained Nova's constant companion, its song now part of a greater harmony. Together, they had discovered that true power lay not in the ability to change the universe, but in the wisdom to change hearts and minds. And on quiet nights, when the crystal spires sang with ancient power, Nova would stand at the edge of the throne world and look out at the stars. The shield would hum softly, reminding her of how far they had come from those desperate days in the ruins, and how much further they had yet to go. The Luminari's gift had not been the power to rule the galaxy, but the chance to help it grow into something better. In the end, that was the greatest power of all, the power to choose wisdom over force, hope over fear, and unity over dominion. The crown of stars would remain empty, a symbol that true leadership came not from sitting upon a throne, but from standing beside those you served. And in that choice, humanity had proven itself worthy of not just inheriting the stars, but of helping them shine brighter than ever before.